Welcome back to the podcast, guys. This is a really fun one. So I'm actually sitting down with a good friend of mine, Morgan Nelson. So he's on the Gold Coast. He has created financial freedom for himself at the age of 23 through the network marketing space. He's an absolute beast in the network marketing world, the personal development world. He is a host of his own podcast as well, which I have been a guest on, and just an incredible human being. He's so diverse in who he is and what he can do. From a lifestyle, from a financial return, from a coaching aspect, he's now diving into this coaching space as well. So it's a really, really cool podcast, guys. You're going to hear his story where he came from literally being just like an everyday person, working an everyday job where he was in quite a toxic environment to literally becoming financially free at the age of 23. So really, really great story. You're going to hear a little bit more about Morgan if you've seen him on social media. We're going to dive a little bit deeper than what you just see from his post. And it's a really cool journey, guys. So sit back, enjoy the lessons, and enjoy. Chat soon. Boom! Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, with a really good friend of mine, Morgan Nelson, all the way from the Gold Coast. He's actually one of my close friends on the GC, brother. How you doing?
What's going on, my man? I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be on this show with you and just drop some value, have a chat, and see where we take it.
Brother, I'm very, very, very excited. And man, I'm really looking forward to this. I've got a lot of respect for you. I think we crossed paths. Would have been about 4 years ago when I just saw you in the MLM world. I think we kind of went back and forth with you with the ISO, with me with the Herbalife when we were back in the day. But man, I really, really love watching your journey, man, especially the way you're developing and the people that you're helping and just how diverse you're becoming as well. You're very starting to dive into some different areas of yourself and who you are. So, and you've got a lot of value to add, man. So I'm really excited to hear where this goes. And I think I'd love to start this off, man. I'd love to hear about your story and where you've come from and who you are and where you've got to where you are today. Because I think there's a lot of value in there and a lot of people can get some inspiration and get some help from hearing where you've come from. Because I'm sure you didn't wake up the man that you are today. So Morgan, could you please give us the trailer to the movie that is Morgan Nelson?
Yeah, absolutely. And dude, first and foremost, thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate your words. And likewise, man, like seeing someone, your age as well, just hustling and getting shit done, and it's not kind of caring about what the world's thinking. Like we need more people like you in the world, like people that are just out there attacking their dreams and what they want to do. Because I think the biggest thing that stops so many people from getting the thing they want is thinking about what other people think of them. And you just show up relentlessly as you on social media, which is extremely funny, by the way.
Truth, baby. You got to speak the truth.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, look, about me, right? I'm 27 years old now. I'm here on the Gold Coast, Australia. Like some people, if they follow me on social media or if they know me or whatever, or if they kind of just come across me, they'd be like, yeah, this guy, they might think he's lucky or he's got it together or whatever, right? Like, yeah, I've created financial freedom through the network marketing space at 23 years old. That was cool. I've traveled the world for the last 3 years, living in Bali, living in Mexico. I was the top income earner in my whole company in Australia last year. For the young people, I got my own podcast, got all this shit, right? And so it's easy for people to kind of be like, even put me on a pedestal or be like, that's so great. And sometimes they can compare, and often people always compare the wrong parts of the journey. They compare the glory, but they never compare the story, or they'll compare the outcome, but they never compare the workload, right? Like when I think comparison, I think trying to stop comparison is like, I don't think that can ever happen. I think everyone's always going to compare, but what we can do, we can choose what we're going to compare to. We're going to compare where we are right now, our result with someone else's result. That's always going to end in just being miserable, right? To feed the full joy. But what if we compare the sacrifices that we're making compared to somebody else? What if we compare the work ethic that we're doing compared to somebody else? What if we compare all those things, right? Then we've got it all out in the playing field. We can kind of check that out. So, when I finished school, I was kind of, I was told that, I never finished. Like here in Queensland, right? We get an OP score, and pretty much that OP score, it's like our overall position, right? And it's going to dictate pretty much how successful you're going to be in life. And if you get a really, really good score, then you will be successful, right? And if you get a shit score, then your class says, you know, good luck to you, right? And so when I was in school, I never enjoyed it. I never enjoyed learning. I thought learning was so boring, like because you know that they put you all in this one box and they tie you all the same brush. It's like, well, here's maths A, maths B, maths C, here's physics, here's this, there's that. The only things I enjoyed in school was music and sport because I was good at those things. I enjoyed it, right? And they were the only subjects where my teachers liked me because I actually enjoyed it. So I was kind of, when I finished school, I was kind of believed that I was pretty stupid. I was told like I was pretty much dyslexic, like I never was able to read a book. I got one of the worst scores. So I think I got a 21, right? And
That's
25 is the worst.
Yeah. I didn't do okay, but I got out of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's pretty average.
Yeah. Like I got one of the worst, right? Because I had no interest in it. I had no interest in school. The only reason I stayed at school was for the parties and the girls. I just understood that I didn't want to leave early because I was like, this is a great time in my life. Like I'm having so much fun now, you know, but I wasn't putting all this pressure on myself. So what I did know though, is that, you know, when I was a younger person, I always dreamt about having freedom and traveling the world and inspiring people, entertaining people and doing things like this. And then somewhere along the way, kind of life conditions you to believe that you can't do that, right? You get to grade 11, 12, and they start to say, well, what are you going to be when you leave school? And it's like, well, I just want to travel and have fun. No. You can't do that anymore. You're an adult now. What are you going to be? What's the job? All right, now let's look at the job you got to get, right? Based on the OP that you're probably going to get, you probably can't get a very good job, which means that, you know, you're not going to be very successful. So I kind of believed all this crap. So I left school and I went and traveled Europe. I came back and I found myself into an apprenticeship as a carpenter. And because I was doing what I thought I had to do, because I was told that, you know, you need to go work hard with your hands because Morgan, you probably can't do much else, right? And so I was like, okay, fine. I believe all this crap. And here I am working as a carpenter, working my ass off 60, 70 hours a week, trading like time for money. I was freaking, you know, I was miserable, but I was attached to the outcome. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because one day I'm going to be qualified. One day then I can have my own business and be a builder maybe. And if I can do all this and retire by 50 years old, then hell yeah. Like that was the dream. Baby. That was the dream, right? And you know, the environment I was in was just kind of like a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs, a lot of fighting, a lot of getting arrested, going to court way more times than my parents appreciated. And, you know, and then I kept going with the workload, what I had to do. And I found myself, we had to move away to Mackay to work. I was told that if I want to finish my apprenticeship, I had to go away and work up there, right? So I was taken away from my dream life here on the Gold Coast. I was working up there, and up there, that's when we were working, you know, 75, 80 hours a week, man. I was doing like 12, 13, 14 hour freaking days, 18, 19 years old, 43-degree heat up there. It was just horrible. And when I was up there, like I kind of, long story short, just fell into the trap of the rest of my environment. You know, we're using drugs to wake up in the morning, drugs to keep going in the afternoon, drugs to go to sleep at night, alcohol to just fill in wherever else, right? And that's what consumed me up there, because I had to be the first one on the site in the morning to set everything up. And then I would be working my ass off till about 3 p.m. in the afternoon where my boss and the rest of the guys would rock up because they've been bendering all night long. Then they'd rock up, bring a whole bunch of Coke or whatever and be like, hey, let's get into it, boys. And then I've just worked a 10-hour day. And now the day is starting. That's what my day was like every single day.
That's
so
insane,
I was
man.
Emotionally destroyed, physically destroyed, mentally destroyed. And it led me like, just to skim across this, but it led me to thinking that like life's so shit, you know, and it's going to be more painful for me to stay on this earth than it's going to be for me to actually leave. So 19 years old, on a completely doped up state, completely out of my whole mind, I attempted to take my own life because I thought it was the only way of, I don't know, you know, I was just in that space of like, this is it. This isn't what I had planned. And that was the moment where I actually kind of woke up and realized that if I'm wanting to create something for myself, for my life, it's up to me. And if I don't make the right decisions, if I don't make the right choices, then life's just going to happen to me. And I know that I'm in full control because there's people in this world, there's evidence in this world of people that are happy, successful, and have the lifestyle they want. And currently, I don't have it right now. So I just made that decision. Instead of kind of playing in the victim role of being like, oh, if only I didn't come up here, if my boss this or this or this, that. I just took full responsibility and full ownership and realized that if I'm going to change anything, I need to get out of this space right now. So it's the first thing I did. I changed my environment. And then I started to discover, like, we'll skim through this, right? So we can pull it apart or whatever. But there's 4 pillars to success. And the first one is your environment. You need to have the right environment. So I decided that, 19 years old, I'm like, if I want to become successful, if I want to, be happy and get around, and travel and do all the things I want to do, I need to get around people that are already doing that. I need to take advice from those people. I need to model those people. And that's what I kind of started to do. But I firstly looked inside myself. It's like, what's the biggest environment we have? Our own body. So I realized that my health has to be a first priority. So I got completely clean, got off all the drugs, all the alcohol, right? And I started to really focus on myself, working out more, eating healthier, and really just working on my health. And, a little bit longer came along. A couple of years later, by being around the right environment, I found the second pillar, which is the right vehicle. 21 years old, I was introduced to network marketing. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was a cult, thought it was a scam.
I
thought it was,
can
right? Because it's just done so weird sometimes. Like sometimes it's just so weird. But it's also when I remember standing outside the room, seeing all these happy people in there. And I called it a cult based on my judgment of my own insecurities. Because deep down inside, it's like I actually wanted to be that happy. And I saw all these happy, positive people actually going somewhere in life. And my natural default was to judge them and be like, oh, you're in a cult. It's like, well, what the fuck is a cult? Everything's a cult. Your PLC gym, a cult. CrossFit, cult. Everything is just a culture, right? It's like, but we choose our culture, right? The culture I was in before were people that were just partying and taking drugs and fighting all the time. Now I choose to be a part of the people that are just a growth community, want to help people, wanting to be happy, healthy, right? So I was kind of skeptical, but I was just unsure. That's probably the better word. I just didn't really know. But what I realized was I had very big opinions, but a very little bank account. So I just decided, take advice from the people you trade positions with. I jumped on board. I got to work. I found the right vehicle. I just jumped in to begin with just to make a little extra income on the side because I was super, super broke.
What were you doing for work?
And carpentry still.
Yep.
So I was still as an apprentice carpenter. I was back here on the Goldie. But I was just making no money. So like $200 a week would have just changed the game for me. And that's just all I saw it for. And then eventually I found the third pillar, which is the right time. So we can be in the right vehicle. We can be doing the right things, what we think. But if it's not the right time for us, or if we're not choosing for it to be the right time, then it's never going to be the right time. But we decide that. So after a couple of years of really building this and thinking I was doing the work, I realized I wasn't really going anywhere in my business yet. And I was like, well, what am I waiting for? So I really decided, I had to find the pain because we're motivated by 2 things in life, pain and pleasure. There are two biggest motivators in our whole life, right? Every single thing we do is to either gain pleasure or avoid pain. So at the moment, all I was doing was trying to gain pleasure. I was trying to I'm going to chase this vision, but I was avoiding the pain because right now, what I associated with was there's going to be more pain involved to actually do the work, to face rejection, to grow myself and jump out of my own comfort zone than it is to actually stay where I am. So it wasn't until I realized that it's going to be far more painful to actually stay where I am than to just do the work necessary. And that's when I decided was the right time. The right time happened. 23 years old. Shortly after, I quit my job. I was financially free. Grew to over 6 figures a year. I've been traveling the world for the last 3.5 years. And then the last one is the right you. And so often, so many people forget this one. And they're just chasing the income. And if you don't work on the right you, what happens, you'll end up as one of those other statistics, those famous stories. You were 50 years old, millions of dollars, but miserable. So if you don't work on the right you, right, which I break this down as I leave it the 3 biggest things is having the right beliefs, the right values, and the right attitude, right? So with the right attitude, I think this is the biggest one is there's 3 kinds of people in the world. You get the pessimist who just sit there and complain about the wind all the time. Then you have the optimist. They'll sit there and go, the wind's going to change for me. The wind's going to change. Come on. I'm being positive. I'm told to think positive. It's going to, when my chakras are aligned and the crystals are in the right place, everything's going to happen.
The secret all over again, right?
Right? Yep. And then you just got the realist who just changes the fucking sails, who just understands, I need to adapt, I need to evolve, I need to, right? And do all that. And they're slightly, and that's why having the right attitude kind of just puts a bow on all of this. So, yeah, that's kind of led me to where I am right now.
I love that, bro. No, that's really, really cool. And obviously we can break that down for an hour or so because I know you know how to talk like me. But man, that's really cool to hear, man. Like I love that. And I know a little bit more of what you're doing now, and we'll definitely dive into that. I'd love to hear, you said you back to when you're working, I think you said in the mines, or you're working away, doing the big hours, drugs and all that stuff, and you went through that suicidal patch. You said you had to wake up, and you said you had a belief, whether you were conscious of it back then to who you are now, but you said that you're in full control and you made the decision. If you could just tell me a little bit about how you managed to do that, because I'm sure you still know people, whether that's the same people that were back then in the day, that they've got the same opportunities you and me have. If you're listening to this podcast right now, you're doing better than 2/3 of the planet. 2/3 of the planet live on less than $2.50 a day. So if you've got access to the internet, you've got more opportunities than so many other people, but so many people don't have that belief. They don't have the belief that you're in control, that you can make a decision to turn your whole life around. How did you back then in that environment make that decision? Like what went through your head? Was it from somewhere else? You'd read a book, you saw a YouTube video, a mentor came into your life. Like what went through your head, man? Because that's a pretty big decision to make for someone at that age in that environment. So yeah, if you can tell me a little bit about that, that'll be really cool to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Like I wasn't into self-development or anything back then. I found self-development when I was about 21 years old. And then it all just started to click. I'm like, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. Like I've just always had this thing inside of me where like I said, the third person being the realist, like I think I've just always had that in me, which I think all of us do, but I think sometimes we maybe believe it's wrong or whatever. I've just always looked at things and been like, that's why I stayed to school to the end of the school, because I wasn't even succeeding in school, but I only stayed there because I was like, I just need to enjoy this moment because one day we're not going to have it. So I've always just been like that, where I'm like, you need to do what makes you happy. You need to live your life now. And just coming from a space of gratitude, like the fact that if you're listening to this right now and you're on this planet, 1 to 400 trillion chances of you being born. And then people walk around with their heads down. People walk around like pissed off, like what the hell? So I always just come from a place of that. But the question was like, how did I kind of, there's other people in that space. I don't know. I think I just, like Tony Robbins says, it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of resourcefulness, right? And there is so many things out there. Yes, you can plug in things like this. You've just got to actually take action, like radical shifts, radical just changes. And for me at that point, I couldn't go any lower. And I knew what I just kind of tapped into. I remember actually sitting there.
You tell us about it. Go back to that place. Like what made you, whether it was a night or a situation where maybe it was a really long day or you're just around the wrong culture. You saw yourself in the reflection. You're like, fuck this, I've had enough type of thing. Like you said, you hit that threshold of pain where people make decisions. Like tell us what was the moment for you where you said, man, whether you knew what to do or not, whether it was going to lead you to what you're doing now, but you just said, no more, I've got to change. How did that happen?
Well, what it was like, so I've got this tattoo on my arm and it says, even when I'm falling, I'm flying.
That's cool. I like that.
Right. So I've always just had this attitude. It's like, see the best, like just live your life. That's always just like, just don't worry about anything else. Just live your life. Go and do what makes you happy. And I remember when it was all happening, I was in this state, I was actually kind of battling, like, I've never actually talked about this, but like actually having a conversation in my head while it was happening, where I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like that was the voice in my head. It's like, are you falling or are you flying?
So
And I was like,
that's the question you were asking yourself in that time.
I literally asked myself, I remember saying like, what the fuck are you doing, Morgan? Are you falling right now or are you flying? You
That's a
know, so
powerful
it's like yeah. And we can choose every single time. Like that's why attitude is the biggest, like our highest asset, because we get to choose how we want to feel. We get to choose what we want to make things mean. And I could have sat there and made it mean so many things, which I did for a while, don't get me wrong. But eventually I just made it mean, it's like, yeah, you know what? This is really hard what I'm going through right now, but the only way is up. And I just started asking questions. Like if I was gonna, like, I actually just went back, when was I the most happiest? It was about a year earlier, about 6 months earlier, when I was just living on the Gold Coast and I had the freedom to just surf on the weekends if I wanted with my mates. And so I just asked that. I'm like, well, what's more important right now than anything? My happiness. So that's why I decided. It was about a 2-week turnaround where I was still in this kind of space of not sure what the hell I actually just try to do and all this stuff. And then I was like, so it was about 2 weeks of just kind of processing. And I'm like, I need to get out of here. That's what it was. I'm like, this environment sucks. I'm out. And I don't give a shit about my apprenticeship. I don't give a shit about anything else. Everything is always going to be perfect and work out for me. Have full trust and faith and just everything. But the first thing I need to do right now is just kind of get out. So I think it's just like the quality of our life comes down to the quality of questions that we ask ourselves. I think a lot of the time people just ask themselves really shitty questions. Like, why me? I don't fucking know. Why you?
Yeah, it's like if you're overweight and you say, "Why am I so fucking fat?" Your brain's going to give you an answer. But it's like,
Yep.
well, how can I lose weight? How can I enjoy it and do it sustainably? It's a different question. What question would you get people to ask themselves if they're not moving forward? If you were to go back to that Morgan back then and you weren't asking that question, you didn't have that tattoo on your arm and you didn't have the question of, am I falling or flying right now? What would you tell someone, whether it's that exact same question or something else, but what's like a really good question that people could ask themselves if they're in a shit place right now? They want to get out, but they're not even conscious of it. They're not asking great questions. They're saying like that, why is my life so shit? How the fuck did I get here? Why am I so broke? Why is my life so shit? Why am I so miserable? Why do I always do all these drugs? Like what's a better question that you could ask, you would to coach someone? What would you get them to ask themselves instead?
That's a huge one. Like, because there's such a big question here, right? Like, why do people say the things they do? A lot of the time, like, depends how long they've been doing it for, but a lot of the time people can actually, there's a payoff for it, right? They're getting some kind of pleasure. Because like I said, everyone's doing something. The two driving forces in our life is to gain pleasure or avoid pain. So sometimes people can actually be sitting in this space and being like in this self-pity party and getting pleasure off it because it's validating who they believe they are. I'm worthless.
What the biggest addiction on the planet is problems, right?
Yeah, you got all those people that have a problem for every solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know, it's like the pessimist, optimist, realist. People can sit there and just, why me? And it's this victim mindset. I wish I had the answer. This is how I do coach people. It's like, I actually say to people when we coach, it's like, I'm not here to be like a therapist. I'm here like, I want radical changes, radical shifts. And if it's not going to happen, if you're not going to actually do the things that we talk about, then I'm not going to work with you anymore. Go and see a psychologist. Because I believe you could really go down that rabbit hole and talk about lots of things, but we can also kind of hit it head on right now and be like, okay, well, it's just as simple as, are you enjoying the way you're feeling right now? Are you enjoying these questions are making you feel a certain way? Because when you think a certain thing, it's going to change your emotions. And when your emotions in a certain way, you get to act a certain way, you get a certain result. Are you enjoying the results you're getting right now? Yes or no? No? Let's change the thought process then. Are you willing to do that? No? Then I don't want to work with you. Because it's like, if you're resistant to that, you know, because it just could be more and more work. But I believe that we can create any identity we want based on the thoughts we give ourselves and the questions that we ask. But a good thing to kind of ask can be, why do you not want the exact thing you say you want? And let people ask that. And then that's usually going to give the kind of the root. I asked somebody this week, I said, why do you not want the exact thing you say you want? They go, because I'm worthless.
Yeah.
I said, well, how about we work there? How do we work on building this worth? Like, and then what defines self-worth? A lot of the time, people define self-worth based on other people's validation and approval. But if that was the case, it would be called other worth, not self-worth. Self-worth comes from our own validation.
Yeah, how would someone increase their own self-worth then?
What I started to do was I started with things like this. I firstly wrote a letter to myself, and I wrote down like all the things like I feel like where's it all coming from? Like where's it all coming from? And I wrote down a letter of all the things like, because if you're feeling worthless, it's probably because you're holding guilt around something or shame around something. So there's then tons of things in my life that I've fucked up and I've hurt people or whatever, and I've had guilt around. And I just wrote a letter to myself, and actually like, okay, guilt and worry are the two most useless emotions ever, right? There's no point for guilt and worry, because guilt is you're ruining your present moment by worrying about something from the past. And if you're worrying about something from the future, you're thinking about the future that hasn't even happened yet. So we could just eliminate them and stay right here. But I just wrote a letter to myself and kind of apologized to myself, and for all the things I was holding guilt on, and all these things. And then I burnt the letter, okay, and did like a little burning ceremony. But then every single time that had that guilt creep up again, I'll just recognize it and be like, hang on a second. If I really loved myself, would I allow this emotion to take over? If I really loved myself, if I really thought I was worthy, would I let this take over, right? And I'd just stop it. I'd stop that emotion. I'd stop that thought and just recognize and be like, hang on a second, I got rid of this. I'm no longer choosing to feel guilt over this now. And then what I started to do was I actually just wrote down a list of all the things that I have accomplished, all the things that I'm really good at, all the things I'm proud of. And I started to look for all those things. And I started to look for more evidence to validate that, I kind of am worthy. But like, it's such a deep thing, this, because so many people can kind of look for external things. I'm worthy if I've got X amount of dollars in the bank. I'm worthy if I've got X amount of followers, get X amount of likes. You take away all that shit. You know what a really interesting thing happened to me started this year?
Go for it.
My Instagram, they kicked me off Instagram. Like I kept like glitching.
Yeah.
I kept glitching and I kept losing my account. Like happened like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I lose it for like 48 hours or 3 days. And when it happened, I felt really lost. And I was like, huh. And I remember going out meeting someone and I connected with them. They're like, oh, what's your Instagram? And I'm like, well, you have to get me on Facebook because, my Instagram's gone. And I felt, it was just really interesting, the questions inside myself. I was just like, I felt like I couldn't show them how worthy I was because I didn't have my Instagram with followers. And it's just like a resume, right? And I was like, how stupid is that? Right? Like how you kind of determine someone's like worth is just how they are as a human being. Like, I really don't care how much followers someone has, their likes, all those things. Like, how are you actually showing up as a human? Are you a kind person? Do you do things that help other people? Do you give value, or do you just take all the time? Right? But that's a few things that I kind of started to do, but it is a huge, anyone really wanting to dive into that topic, go and read a book called Your Erroneous Zones by Wayne Dyer.
I saw you commented it. I purchased that 2 days ago, so I haven't done it yet, but I purchased it. So it's next on.
Crazy. It's crazy good. Like, and that thing was written back in the 70s.
It's crazy. That's
like 45 years ago, man. It was like I've reread just the first few chapters a few times now because I'm like, this is huge stuff. And the more I kind of learn about it, the more I realize that nearly every single issue that people have in life stems back from they're trying to get validation and approval from other people.
Yeah.
Or because they just don't feel worthy themselves. But like I said, like anything, we can just do it right now. Like if you're like, well, I'm not feeling worthy, like choose to feel worthy now. Like, what are you waiting for? Like this, you know, okay, I now pronounce you worthy. Is that what you're waiting for?
A question that I normally ask people or get them to focus on. It's I had a client the other day and he was talking about it was about women. He's quite insecure with himself. And he said this really general, brutal line. All women are bitches or something, or all women are like nasty or something, because he got bullied for being ugly or fat or whatever it was. And he kept focusing on the past, and because he had some trauma or whatever he hasn't dealt with. And he made up the belief that all women are mean or whatever. And I said, how comes that? Oh, because I did it in the past. I asked him, I said, okay, well, if that never happened and that wasn't a problem, is there a problem right now? And he's like, no. So why are you focusing on a problem? Because it's not even there anymore. Because there's no such thing as, in my world anyways, there's no such thing as a problem. There's an event or a situation. Then your perspective creates your version of it. And you mentioned something similar to what I just said then anyways. It's like an event can change your life or it can ruin your life, but that's your call. Mm-hmm. A breakup can make you or break you. Losing a job, getting fired, losing all your money, losing your Instagram, like that can either ruin you or that can make you better, but it's just your choice. And you said that from the start, you made that decision. It's your choice. So I'm always like, well, is it really a problem then? If it's your choice to decide what it means, is it even a problem or is it just a situation? So if that's not a problem anymore, is there a problem right now? So anyways, that's kind of my take on that, but that's really fucking cool to hear, man.
Like everything in life, like nothing in life has meaning except for the meaning that we give it.
Mm.
And when you really understand that, you're in control of every single thing. Nothing, like there's always stuff happening. There's always just stuff happening and events happening. And we're the highest form of creation in this entire universe, right? We have this faculty that we can look at something and say, well, what do we want to make that mean? We can choose to make it mean something great that's going to help us, or something that's going to like immobilize us. So what my mentor teaches is this formula called event plus story equals problem.
Nice.
So an event happens, right? So let me tell you about this. So an event happened last year. Let me share two stories, actually, to kind of, one where I didn't understand this and one where I understood this. The first one, I was 19 years old. I had stitches in my face because I got a block of wood smashed in the face, right? So I told you, like, my background was pretty wild. And so I was hanging out at home one time, and long story short, grew up in a household where, you know, my mum was with this massive Papua New Guinean guy, 145 kilo bouncer. And he was really like physically abusive to mum growing up, where I was too young to kind of understand what was going on. Then eventually I got old enough, where I was 19 years old, sitting there, and it all started to break out one day in the home. And I was just like, all this stuff that I suppressed for so long, pretending I wasn't there. But trust me, your subconscious picks up everything, regardless if you believe it's not there or not. And so long story short, it happened in me and him getting into a fight that night, where he kind of like cornered me in the corner. It went all pitch black, so I turned the TV off, so it was pitch black. And next minute, I just knew we were fighting because I got smashed straight in the face. I was like, holy crap, I can't see anything. So I yelled at it. My sister was there, my girlfriend at the time was there, my mom was there. My mom was going through chemo at the time, so it was just hectic. It was just me, this 19-year-old scrawny kid, against this 145 kilo. I weighed 65 kilos at the time.
Damn.
Right? So it was a big weight difference there. And I just yell out, turn the light on, turns the lights on. And then we just start having it out. My stitches busted open, there's blood coming out. I used the guitar as a weapon. It got hectic. It got really hectic. Right? I won though. I won. It was a tough fight, very tough fight. But I won. I just had to throw that in there. But then what happened was the event happened. Then it continued. Police came. I got kicked out of home. I was made to be the bad guy. I started then attaching a story to it. Mum chose him over me. What does this mean? What does this make of me? Blah, blah, blah. And I made this whole thing mean so much. I had people I had people organized to be paid to go and, let's just say, sort him out. Right? Yeah. Like, I was just so enraged, where I was like, no one does that. I'm going to win still, right? And then my girlfriend at the time, her mum said to me, she's like, Morgan, you could go and get these guys to go and fuck him up. Yeah. But the best revenge is just become really successful. And I said, I like that option better. I'll give that a go. So, but I attached this problem. I attached this story to the event. That's the thing. I attached a story to it that meant all this stuff, and like too long to even talk about. But I carried that with me for about 3 or 4 years, this absolute anger. And then eventually, because what it then created, it created a massive problem in my life. I had a big problem. There was a big divide in the family. I couldn't see my mom because he was there. I didn't want to. No one else, because this whole thing, because I created this big story about everything that happened. Then eventually, once I really started getting into self-development and I came over my own ego ship, right? And I realized that for me to move forward, it's like if you're holding on to hate right now, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
100%. I've heard that many times. I like that.
Right? And that's what we all do. We hold on to hate because we're right. Who gives a fuck who's right? Like, what are you choosing to do? How do you want to feel? So I chose to just release it, let go of it, forgive, not the actions, right? I'm not saying that's okay to do again, but I'm forgiving the whole situation and just letting it go so I can move on. And I did that. My whole life changed. My business exploded, everything, right? That's the thing. I attached a story to it, created a massive problem in my life for years. Later, last year, I'm traveling. I'm in Central South America. And by the way, like anyone who travels, especially Central America, South America, there comes risks with traveling. That's just the joys of traveling, especially if you're going to go to Colombia. All right? Just don't complain about it. Just, it is what it is. If you want to live a safe and secure life, just never leave your home. Try that and see how happy that is, right? So anyway, I'm in Colombia where we're in Medellin airport. We have to fly to Bogota airport. Bogota is the capital. Pretty insane city, like pretty rough city. And we're meeting a whole bunch of our friends in Cartagena, this beach town up top, and it's going to be incredible. Everyone's coming in, people flying in from different countries. It's going to be an amazing week. I'm sitting in the airport, I put my backpack down next to me. And as we get up to get onto the plane, I pick up my backpack and it's the wrong backpack. And I'm like, what the hell? This isn't my backpack. I look inside of it and it's empty. And then instantly I'm like, oh, someone's sat down behind me, switched their backpacks. They've took mine. Okay. What was in the backpack was my laptop, was my AirPods, was my passport, a whole bunch of shit. And now my other bag is on my connecting flight going to Cartagena. So instantly, this is what happened. An event happened. Okay. Event happened. My backpack got stolen. My passport got stolen. Everything was gone. Now I have the choice to attach a story or not. So I chose to, fuck it. And Cameron's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm going to Cartagena. Like I'm going there. So I go and I'm like, I'll sort it out later. Like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. We go to get onto the plane. They say, well, you can't get on. Well, they say you can get on because you have the ticket, but you're not really going to be able to get back here because you have no passport, because you need a still passport to fly domestic. And I said, hang on, let me just see where the embassy is then. The embassy was in Bogota. So it was a smart decision. I go, well, I'll just stay in Bogota. I got to go sort out a passport and blah, blah, blah. Now, I could have attached all this meaning. Colombia, feeds, blah, blah, blah. People were right. People said, da, 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 da. I created this huge story and ruined, like, I'm in Colombia. This is another country. It's the most incredible experience ever. I could have ruined all this by creating this huge story and this drama about it, create this massive problem and just complain about it the whole time. But what I chose to do was attach no story. All right. And I said to Kevin, hey, let's explore Bogota. How cool is this? Now that we get to see a whole new city, we've been forced to be here, whether it's just to sort of ground ourselves for a little bit, because like the 5 weeks leading up was hectic. We're in like 4 or 5 different countries. Who knows? But everything is happening for us. Everything is happening for a reason. And for some reason, I wasn't meant to be in Cartagena right now. Let's just enjoy it. Got a new passport. All this stuff happened. Everyone had fun in Cartagena. We eventually got there, but we missed everybody else. But we had so much fun. And that's just what life's about, just enjoying the process. And it just continued, actually, because on that passport, I couldn't then get into the States. I couldn't get into Canada. I couldn't go into China, right? And these were all the major hubs to fly home from. I was in Mexico City at this point now. I couldn't fly home. I couldn't meet up with Cameron. We couldn't do, I had meetings, like all this stuff, all these issues happened. But I was just like, well, like, what am I going to do about it? the event's happened. I can't do anything about it. I can choose to be miserable and pissed off about it, or I can just choose to have another margarita and another taco and then go explore another city. And that's exactly what I did. I stayed in Mexico City for 3 weeks until I could find a way home.
That's beautiful, man. I
just
love
enjoyed it.
that. That's a great story.
So what he talks about, to wrap it up, event plus no story equals no problem. And that's the thing we choose every single time. We attaching a story and meaning to anything that happens in our life.
Incredible, bro. Fucking incredible. Man, we'll start to wrap it up because we'll end up talking for 2 hours. But man, what is it that you're doing now? So what are you focusing on now? Like, you've obviously had your journey in the network marketing world. You had some phenomenal success in that. Like, obviously, I know you do a bit of speaking now. You're now taking on some personal clients. You're doing some programs. I'm sure you're doing other things behind the scenes, I'm sure. But yeah, what is it that what's the mission now for you? What are you really focusing on now for yourself?
My main thing is always just to continually keep living a freaking epic life to my highest values, which is just love, success, and fun. Yep. So every single thing I do in life is just evolved around those 3 things.
Yep.
But my network marketing business is still my major focus, always will be, because I just believe that there's no other better financial vehicle for people to kind of get into. Like, for the average person, like for me being a carpenter, and even you, right? Like, you learned so many of your skills in business when you first started, but now you're going to take it to do what you're passionate about, which is so great. So I love that as a vehicle to be able to help other young people that don't really know what they want to do yet. They need mentorship, they need a community, and they need a vehicle. So something that's just low buy where they can get into and start scaling. Yeah, I love that. So my mission is still...
You had me on your podcast a while ago, and it's the same answer I say every time. When someone doesn't know what they want to do, first thing, just do network marketing. Whether you're successful or not in it, it's going to teach you a shitload. It's going to give you exposure to personal development. It's going to give you exposure to not trading time for money, overcome rejection, work on yourself. Like, it's the ultimate incubator of high quality people. It just gets you started. And whether you finish your career in there or not, that's fine. Like, I've moved on to other things. But it's just such an incredible environment for people. And yeah, I'm exactly on the same page as you.
Yeah, it's like the person you become is the biggest asset. Like, because that's where I just learned self-development and everything. And I've seen people come into network marketing and they've stuck at it and they've killed it. Now they're making millions a year. I've seen people come in, make an awesome amount of income, but then learn the skills and use it as a stepping stone to then go and do what their highest purpose is.
100%.
And it's just phenomenal. So I'm just passionate about that because I get to just freaking help people. And I know how to get results because I've done it for 6 years now. So I love that. That's my major thing. Obviously, I got my podcast now. My big thing, kind of similar to you, like what I really love is actually just helping people get into their head and get over the shit that they've learned and been conditioned with and start living a more fulfilling, more happy, more successful life. I love that. So I do a lot of that through the podcast. Yeah, I take on a bunch of kind of one-on-one clients, very selective with it. Because my energy, I'm just about results. So I'm not someone who's just gonna. I want people to pay me so I can tell them what they want to hear. I'm not doing it for the money. I want to see results in people's lives. So yeah, there's a number of things, but it's definitely just the beginning. I've got a lot of things that we're talking a little bit about before the show started, but I got a lot of things, a lot of online kind of education stuff I want to tap into. So yeah, that's kind of where my focus is. But yeah, biggest thing is still first and foremost is building an even better financial foundation. Like no better thing than residual income. When I've got an extremely epic residual income, things are kind of limitless then. So yeah.
Exciting times, man. If anyone was interested or inspired or just wanted to say thank you or wanted to reach out for your services or just connect with you, where's the best place to find you?
Instagram for sure. Just Morgan T. Nelson. Send me a message. Even from this episode, I always just love to hear what people got from things. I reply to every single message. Sometimes people message me and they're like, or I get in contact with them after, they're like, I just didn't think you'd reply. It's like, what the fuck, man? I reply to everybody. I might be 2 days late, but I reply to everyone. I open every message. I reply to everybody. So please send me a message there. I love it. And then I got my podcast as well that you've been on. So that episode was up a little while ago. It was freaking fire. It's called Dreaming Out Loud with Morgan T. Nelson. So you can find it on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else you find podcasts as well.
Perfect, man. And if you were to leave the world with one line, what's the first thing that comes to your heart? What would you say?
Stop taking advice from broke and unhappy people.
There's a quote card right there. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. For everyone that's gotten to the end of this podcast, well done. Thank you for enjoying it. Please leave a review, send Morgan or myself a message. And if you enjoyed it enough, share it on your story and give us a tag so we can tell that you guys got some value out of it. Thank you so much, my brother. I'm sure we're going to have another podcast soon. And again, thank you for your time, my bro.
Absolutely, man.